Imagine being brutally tortured in the middle of a desert, killed by a group of ruthless men, buried under the ground like you never existed, and then waking up again, not as a normal human, but as something far more terrifying that only wants revenge. And the worst part is, the people who did this have absolutely no idea that the girl they destroyed is about to come back and hunt every single one of them. The story begins with a young girl named Joey who lives in California with her older sister, and both of them are deaf, which means they communicate using sign language. But despite this, Joey lives a happy life, and she is about to start a completely new chapter because she is planning to travel across the country to meet her fiancé, Ben, and finally build a future with him. Before leaving, her sister surprises her with a special gift, a brand new car so that she can safely travel during the long journey. Her sister smiles while handing over the keys, but at the same time, she also gives Joey a warning through sign language, telling her to drive carefully and never trust strangers on the road. Joey hugs her sister and then begins the long road trip across the empty highways of America. During the journey, Joey keeps sending messages and pictures to Ben, showing him the beautiful landscapes, the open desert roads, and the peaceful sky above them. Ben replies lovingly, and it is clear that both of them are deeply in love and cannot wait to meet each other again. For Joey, the journey feels exciting and peaceful as she enjoys the freedom of the road. But everything changes when she reaches the isolated desert highways of New Mexico, where the roads become empty and there are barely any people around. At one point, she stops near a strange man who is selling random items from the back of his van on the roadside. Joey politely asks him for directions, and after a short interaction, she continues her journey, not knowing that something horrible is about to happen. A few minutes later, while driving, Joey suddenly notices a man standing directly in the middle of the road. She immediately turns the steering wheel to avoid hitting him, and the car swerves violently. But what she sees next freezes her with fear, because nearby a group of violent men are brutally attacking someone on the road. They beat the helpless victim mercilessly and then run him over with their truck, as if his life means absolutely nothing. Joey is shocked and terrified, but instead of escaping, she decides to help the injured man lying on the road. She quickly pulls him into her car, hoping she can take him somewhere safe. However, before she can drive away, the gang suddenly surrounds her vehicle. Their leader, a cruel man named Tom, slowly walks toward her, while the others block every possible escape. Joey grabs a knife and tries to threaten them, hoping they will stay away, but the men only laugh at her fear, and one of them suddenly stabs the injured man inside the car, killing him instantly right in front of her eyes. Tom calmly tells Joey that if she gives him the knife, he might let her leave alive, but Joey realizes she cannot trust these people. So the moment she gets a small chance, she runs, trying to escape the nightmare. But before she can go far, Tom pulls out a gun and shoots her in the leg, causing her to fall painfully onto the ground. The gang then captures Joey and drags her to a remote hideout deep in the desert, far from civilization, where nobody would ever hear her screams. There, they torture her in the most cruel and horrifying ways imaginable, believing that they can do anything they want without consequences. Meanwhile, far away, Ben starts getting worried because Joey suddenly stops replying to his messages. The pictures stop coming, and her phone becomes completely silent. The last location he received from her was somewhere in the middle of the desert, and he begins to fear that something terrible might have happened to her. Back at the hideout, the gang continues their brutal treatment of Joey until eventually the torture becomes too much for her body and she dies. The men think their problem is solved, so they take her lifeless body out into the desert, dig a shallow grave and bury her there like she was nothing more than trash, before leaving the area, believing the story has finally ended. But the next morning, something strange happens when a mysterious man named Morris discovers Joey's body buried in the sand. Morris is not an ordinary man. Instead of calling the police, he performs a strange ritual using ancient symbols and dark magic while chanting mysterious words. During the ritual, something impossible happens. Joey suddenly opens her eyes, but the thing that wakes up is no longer the same innocent girl, because a powerful spirit has entered her body, a spirit filled with anger, pain, and an unstoppable desire for revenge. Joey slowly walks back toward the road, where she finds a phone lying nearby, and when she calls Ben, something shocking happens. For the first time in her life, she is able to speak. She tells Ben that terrible things happened to her and that she needs help. Ben promises that he will come find her as quickly as possible, but Joey now has something else on her mind: revenge. Soon the gang members start dying one by one in brutal and mysterious ways. Arrows strike from the darkness, blades appear out of nowhere, and the men who once believed they were untouchable slowly begin to realize the horrifying truth. The girl they buried in the desert is somehow still alive, but there is something terribly wrong with her body. Her skin is slowly decaying, insects crawl beneath the surface, and her wounds refuse to heal. Yet she keeps moving forward because the spirit inside her refuses to rest. Morris later explains the terrifying truth that the spirit controlling Joey's body belongs to an ancient warrior named Magnus, who was murdered many years ago by the ancestors of the same gang. Magnus has waited generations for revenge, and now he is using Joey's dying body as a weapon to destroy the bloodline of the people who killed him. As the hunt continues, the gang members panic and try to escape, but Joey tracks them down relentlessly, eliminating them one by one until only their leader, Tom, remains. Determined to survive, Tom prepares for a final confrontation, and when they finally face each other, the battle becomes extremely brutal. Tom attacks her repeatedly, damaging her already broken body, and at one point he even uses a chainsaw to cut her apart. But despite everything, Joey keeps crawling toward him because the spirit inside her will not stop until revenge is complete. Eventually, Ben finally manages to find Joey, but by the time he arrives, her body is barely holding together. She understands that she cannot survive much longer and that the spirit inside her will never leave unless her body is completely destroyed. So, with tears in her eyes, she asks Ben for a final favor. She tells him to burn her body because only fire can release the spirit trapped inside and end the curse forever. Ben is heartbroken, but he knows she is right. So, with trembling hands, he pours fuel over her body and sets it on fire. The flames rise into the dark desert night, and as her body burns, both Joey and the ancient spirit finally find peace, bringing this terrifying story of revenge to its emotional end.